So what is coming up for you?
I think what is coming up for me is how to just show up. And when I say show up, it does not mean like showing up for an FB live or, showing up for a video per se, but how do you show up in every moment of the day or night? And that's been the theme for me for this past couple of weeks, to just become aware of what is coming up and what is my behavior. So there are times when my behavior has been contrary to what has been coming up for me. And there were times when I could be true to what has been coming up for me.
Okay. If we rephrase that, is that sometimes there is resistance towards what is happening in your life, and you know it is happening.
Yes.
And sometimes you acknowledge what is going on.
Yeah.
And you admit to that, right?
Yes.
But sometimes there is resistance.
Mm.
You want the things to go a certain way.
Yeah.
But you don't want. You sort of turn like a blind eye towards something that is actually happening.
Yes. Yes. So that, and plus at times you just go in a calculative mode also, because you are also, like, for example, I'm also calculating what is going to be the consequence of my action right now. And while it may seem all right now, it could be that I'm regretting it tomorrow. So that kind of creates a bit of tussle in to be or not to be, like the most conventional thing that, do I allow myself to be true to what I'm feeling right now and what is happening inside me, or do I go ahead and just control it?
How do you control it?
So for example, let's say I get upset with, for example, what's an example that I can get upset with? Okay. So for example, if, the newspaper or the milkman has not come on time, then I know that, that is my slot wherein I have the time to read the newspaper, have that quiet cup of tea. And once it's gone, it's gone. I don't have a scope of recovery through the day, or I have to wait for that moment till, say, 4 hours down the line. So in that moment, it's kind of confusing what to do. That, hey, you know what? It's a one-off that this has happened. But at the same time, it's happening so fast. The second feeling is that, but why, why is it happening today when I know that, I need that the most? Third thing is, do I just call up the newspaper guy and say that, hey, what's wrong with you? But then at the same time, acknowledge that, hey, this has just been a one-off. So you go to 3 or 4 emotions very quickly. And so you're trying to cover up for the fact that you're upset. Somehow you don't want to be upset, rather than just accept that, okay, I am upset, and what's the next best thing for me to do?
Okay.
So that was a very basic...
That was a very, yeah.
Yeah, it was just a very basic, crude example, but it happens that, there are 4 or 5 things that comes.
Yeah, it's very light. I wanted to say it's very light. It's, I think it's easier, I guess, to really to accept that.
That I'm upset, right? But it's so difficult. It's so difficult at that point to even say that, hey, this has upset me. So maybe, it's got nothing to do with the milkman and the newspaper. It's more like, how can I be upset? It goes into that. That,
I feel like I know what you're saying, but I
yeah.
feel like we need to go for example that is maybe let's say a little bit something that is harder for people for us to accept, because I think that
Okay. Fair enough.
you see what I mean?
Got it.
Like with
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. For example, let's talk about relationships.
Sure.
Yeah, that we all have a relationship with different people, and I want to talk about maybe what is coming up. It's accepting, not accepting, but acknowledging, right?
Yes. I think
before we accept
acknowledge.
anything, acknowledgement of, for example, what has been happening for me is that I want to be in one place, for example, with my personal life or with my job, right? So I envision something, and in my head I create sort of like a I already say I want to be there, right? Yes. I want to I don't know, like in terms of like let's say with a friend, right? So I meet a friend, and I make a connection with someone, and I feel like, oh, we have a great connection with that person. I would love to go, for example, on a trip with that person, or to be closer, to see them more often, for example, right?
Yeah.
We meet these people, and then I'm like, oh wow, we really have like a good like a friendship chemistry going on. And then this person, for example, disappears or closes down, or opens up and then closes down, and then I feel strange, because like what was happening like a week ago, we had a very nice conversation, we really clicked, we connected, and now you're kind of, or I offer like to go for coffee or something, and they would refuse, or they would disappear or something. And I that acknowledgement of this, what you're saying, being upset, because that would upset me. I would like to see, for example, like, and if it's an interesting like a woman who has, like, I don't know, doing a lot of projects, I'm thinking, oh, maybe we could do something together. I feel like I envision like a big bright future for our friendship. But it just started. Like, I just met her, for example. And this creates this duality of it's, yes, there are a certain amount of expectations that are attached to that, and also what maybe I'm craving a certain type of connection.
Yes.
And I see that in her, for example. Yeah. So it's not only about expectations. It's about that I have a need for a certain amount of connection. Like, for example, even if we take newspaper, it's a time for you to connect to yourself, or perhaps to rest. There's a certain amount of
it's just that me time. Okay, so
you need to fulfill.
Yeah, so it's just like how we crave for a me time. Let's just say that is what it is. I have that need for me time. Yeah.
Yeah, and like in relationship or in the job, for example. Yeah, I meet a person who can be a potential client, for example, and we have a free consultation. And in my head, I'm thinking, there's plenty of work, and then we click, and then that person decides not to go ahead. Yeah. And we can get upset, right?
True.
And I want to be we talked about expectations in our previous talks, which we do understand there are expectations, but here I want to acknowledge the need and the current state that, for example, I'm in, or you're in.
Yes.
When something upsets you, I think it's very important to say why. Yeah, okay, to acknowledge first, and then why is it upsetting me?
Yes. I think, and you're absolutely right. Sometimes I just jump the chapter of I am upset and then directly get into why I am upset. I should not be getting upset. So I don't even take that moment to sometimes just sit back and think, okay, so what is the real thing that is upsetting me? Because therein lies that missing piece. Just to step back, like, what has really upset me, right, in the situation? It's not what is actually on the surface level, but it is like what you said, something that I had built in my mind, which also had different results. So like that me time, I'll be relaxed, then I'll be super productive, or, there are so many things that have been lined up with that me time as my base. And then when I don't get it, I don't think I'm getting crashed by the fact that that me time has not happened. I just feel that that castle has broken, right? And then it upsets me that, hey, I have worked so hard to not get upset with anything, and this still upsets me. So in many ways, it's just kind of going back and forth that why am I getting upset? Versus just being all right that, I am upset. What is the next best thing I can do? I think I can save a lot of time if I just become okay with I am upset. What can I do next? Versus, why do I get upset?
Yeah, change the tone, right? So be more compassionate.
Yes.
Yeah, change. Yeah. Yes, and also I feel that there's a certain amount of when we label something.
Yes, I was just going to come to that. Yeah.
When we put a label on anything. So there was this article, I don't know if you've read it, the one that was posted in our deep community, deep coaching community. There's where I forgot the name of the person who wrote the article, but anyway, he says that why do we call, for example, like people who are unemployed, they call themselves unemployed.
Yeah.
And people who are employed, they call themselves employed.
Yeah.
And actually, why don't we call people who we consider to be unemployed, or who we think are doing nothing, we'll call them entrepreneurs, actually. Each one is an individual entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, it's really you doing everything. Every single person is doing what they can to provide for themselves.
Yes, we are building our life.
Even if and it doesn't, like, the fact that you have a contract signed by other people and stamped, and that makes you employed, right? And if you don't have that contract, or it looks different or something, you would say, I'm not employed. And then I feel like we attach so much stigma to that. We call these people, it's like you're employed, you're something. You're unemployed, you're nothing. And I think this is what it happens when we have these experiences. Like, even if we go back to the examples that you used, that I used, that something very similar is happening, right? We rush to stay with the wording rather than with the experience itself.
Yes.
Yeah, when that newspaper arrives, it's like you call it me time. So you get to that label of that me time.
Yes.
Right? And this, as if before, this me time arrives, there's a whole set of mental constructs that walk in, and then me time comes. Or I don't know, if I meet someone and there's like we have that connection, right? We have that amazing, I don't know what, conversation. Then the next time I see that person, there's a whole set of mental constructs that walk in before that person even goes in my direction. Because immediately, like, we go into that label, right? Go into that label of, as if we detach ourselves from the kinesthetic, from the physical experience of it. Physical, I mean.
Yeah, got it. Understood.
Not just mental.
Yes.
Not just mental.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So, yeah. So I think this is what. So I'm kind of like, I'm now, because we're exploring. So this is what I feel is happening when we don't want to show up as is. We would like to stick to the wording, to the labels, rather than living the experience of what is. We don't have to name it.
Yes. It's actually bringing me to our very first conversation, which is essentially going with the flow.
Yeah.
Somehow. That is what is coming up for me, that, because we get attached to these labels. One is we create those labels. I don't know who created that for me, right? Like, or maybe it has been hammered, but somehow there is no rule on this earth which says that if I don't get my me time, I can't be productive. I can be productive even if I don't have my me time, because you're just moving from minute to minute. But somehow I have labeled that me time as the most crucial thing on this earth. And while I'm not saying that it's not something that, we don't need to have. Of course, we need to have. And I'm just trying to ensure that, it's not treated in the extreme way. But on that given day, when things are not going as per your perceived or your thought of flow, can we then just go with the flow of what is then happening?
Yes.
And
I mean, it's reinforcing what you're saying.
Yeah, I know, and it's so beautiful. As in, I just didn't realize that, so many labels just come up. Like, for example, in our industry, you're a life coach. You're supposed to be happy every single minute. And that's not the case. It is, you're good at coaching, and coaching is different from being happy. But the perception is that, how did you get upset? And then that kinds of creates another pressure of label when you interact with people, that, oh my God, this person is viewing me as a coach, so I should stand up to the label of the coach.
Yeah.
And honestly, I just need to be a coach when I'm coaching, right? Like,
yeah.
And it happens with us. Like, for example, you wouldn't expect like a banking professional to be a banking professional 24/7. You would expect him to be a banking professional when he's working at the bank.
Yeah.
And
I also, we never cease to be human at any one point.
Yes. So, yes.
I mean, you can be professional all you want, but then, humanness happens.
Yes.
And I think this is the reason why it's so hard for people to show up and acknowledge with what is happening, because as if I feel like it's almost shameful to be human.
Yes, exactly. I was just going to come to that you feel guilty for a human reaction or for a human feeling. So in many ways, you don't want to accept that you're human. So it's like all of us want to be that superhuman, perhaps, or that superwoman, who can do everything. And yeah. So just to accept that,
I'm
human.
I'm thinking that now. Yeah, now that we're talking, I'm thinking that if I take, like, throughout the day, how before, like, I don't know, for example, I go to, I don't know, I run to pick up my daughter, or I go to a workout, or I'm about to meet someone I've never met, right? Be it for work or for whatever, for leisure. And how many times does it happen that I'm thinking, when I walk in the direction of that experience, whatever that might be, even going to the supermarket, that I go inside actually experiencing and not first plunging, kind of going into this set of labels and expectations, like a thick wall that I need to go through, and then maybe I will experience whatever is happening.
True.
You know, it's just making it so difficult to show up in that context. You know, for example, if someone goes to work every morning and they're not necessarily happy with that work, for example, or going to I don't know, whatever, university or whatnot, and it's like already like we deprive our body from the kinesthetic experience. We go into that state of, I'm going to the workplace and I will see such and such, he's a jerk, I will do this and this, which I don't like. And I'm not saying that it's not true, but we already kind of start living something which is not really there.
Yeah.
Or is it there? You know, to go with that curiosity. Maybe it is there, maybe it's not, but we don't know. And when we go actually, it's like a child who's never seen, I don't know, a rain, or for the first time sees snow. They don't have they're not labeling it anywhere, right? So they go, they touch, maybe they taste it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that we can't, if something happens that we've never done before, first we're thinking, oh, what is the outside world thinking? What will they think? What will they do? Am I allowed to do that? And then to actually experience what is happening is so much more fulfilling and rewarding.
True. So do you think then the labels are coming because of the fact that we want what somebody else has? Like, for example, if I was to experience, say, snowfall, which I've never experienced before in life, but I have heard of people talking about how it feels and what it feels. So in my head somewhere, I already label snowfall as to have the capacity to generate these feelings. And it could happen that I absolutely hate it, or I absolutely love it. I don't know, because I've not experienced it. I can't tell for sure right now. But then in that moment, if I feel something contrary to what I have heard, then do I have the ability to trust my own experience, or do I start questioning myself or my thoughts, or start feeling guilty for those labels which are already there in my head?
So if you're a conditioned person who lives by someone else's beliefs, you will probably start to convince yourself that you like it.
Yes. Otherwise you can just then own up to your experience that, no, I do not like it. And at the same time,
what happened to me when,
and at the same time, sorry, I just wanted to, something has just come up.
Go ahead.
At the same time, that was my first snowfall. Maybe the second time, I can see it differently, but I've already put the pressure on. If I didn't have that label very tight, that snowfall is bad. So, because I don't even know that when I was experiencing that snowfall, whether I was truly experiencing the snowfall, or was it a lot of other things that perhaps came in the way of the experience.
Yeah.
So it's...
Yes, and it can change, right?
Yeah.
It can change. We don't know how we will react the next time as well.
True.
And that's okay too. That's okay too.
Absolutely.
It's like starting to miss someone all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like, I don't know, it's been sometimes, you know, my daughter keeps missing the babysitter who left months ago, and she still tells me I miss her. Like, and who's to say that you're not supposed to do that?
Yeah.
Time has passed, you know. It's, and acknowledging it or saying, oh no, it doesn't happen. Like, it happened for me. You know, I've met with a lot of that when I was pregnant. It was, you know, people were saying, oh, you're pregnant, you should be happy. You know, I fell out with one friend who was like, but you know, it's happy. And albeit she had her problems with conceiving a child, but and I was like, I feel like I'm being run down by a truck every single day. Like, there's nothing amazing about this experience so far. I mean, I don't know what is happening. Yes. Something's cooking, but I feel like I once I fell asleep while driving. I was so knackered. I mean, it was at the traffic light, but still, it was. Yes. I was so knackered. So it's, and yeah, if we hear the yep, the outside world, you know, just telling us this is what you're supposed to do, then, and if I don't go deep inside and actually sit with what is happening for me right now, it's actually more tiring.
True. You know, so it has also happened. Now, this is with the external labels, but also the internal labels. Like, so for example, you meet a person for the first time and you don't hit it off. You probably don't even like each other, or maybe you just have a very so-so conversation. There is a label that, okay, I don't get along with this person. And maybe a few months down the line, you know, this can happen in an office scenario that, you know, you're put in that same project and you start working, start spending more time, and you actually say that, you know, no, all is good.
Yeah.
But then there is a pressure in the head that, hey, you know what, but I'd already labeled this as this is not going to work out.
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm finding that, you know, if the labels go down, you can actually even, you know, it's leading to having an open mind, one, that is from your internal side. Second thing is also, it will also help you to forgive people and be with people as they are in that moment. So one is you're labeling yourself and dealing with your labels, but you've also labeled the other person and dealing with their labels.
Yeah, it's like a set of, it's, yeah, that makes, this is the problem with the human communication.
So I was just actually wondering, and perhaps this is a topic for our next live, but what is it that, you know, makes us conclude things? You know, why can't we just leave it as it is? Like, for example, I just go speak to somebody, come back. What is making me label something?
That is a very good question. The way I see it is, what is making us, I think it's, the human mind it's a funny thing that's quite complicated, and we are programmed not to ever be fully satisfied. You know, there's a reason for that, because that pushes us to grow.
True.
So that complete zen and this full bliss, it's something that does not exist, because in a human experience we can't have it.
Yeah, that is not for the human experience.
Yes, exactly. So because our mind is like, we're never because we're never fully satisfied, you know, our mind starts to create its own mazes in the head. All right. And I think maybe it's the meaning of life, I don't know, to find way out of one maze and then to get into another and to another. And perhaps what we are preaching is to make the process of wandering between mazes a more pleasurable one.
Okay, so something big is coming up for me, and I just want to take a minute and let's just do that. For the next 1 minute, if we can just drop the human experience and just let whatever has to be, just be.
I know what's come. What's come kind of surface. It's that life is an unpredictable thing. And that is the only certainty we can have.
Yeah.
And so we want to show up only if we are in our heads. We want to show up only when there is certain list is fulfilled.
Yes.
But we don't want to show up in something that is unpredictable.
Yes.
Something that is not certain.
True.
And when we acknowledge the fact that life is something we don't know.
Yeah, and it's okay.
In so many ways, and it's even if it was not okay, you don't really have a choice.
Yes, exactly. It's so beautiful.
And that is and it's yes, I agree with that. You know, that we can find beauty in that, because you know, with this we create so many things in our lives with technology, with whatnot. You know, big corporations are working on that to make sure that we can predict.
Yes.
Which is all right. You know, it can be like they're doing it in Singapore. They're thinking ahead, and they want to, they go. There's a sense in that, right? I mean, we're not devaluing that experience.
No,
but being in the moment of life means to value the fact that we can't predict things.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, that's what I realized, that it's our minds, it's the humans or the human experience that requires labels. But if you just drop that, we can still experience life in a very different way.
Yes.
Wow. Should we leave that and just wrap it up for here? Thank you so much. This was like a pure exploratory talk. Like, we just didn't know from where it started to where it went. But but it was just to even, for me, it was a big thing to just even publicly just acknowledge and say that, hey, you know what, just drop the human experience for a minute. I would have never I would have not trusted that, but it came up and you could trust that, and wow. Thank you for holding space.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, we'll see you soon.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for watching.